right, welcome to another episode of Human Happy Hour. Today we're doing a special on Father's Day called the Father's Day Bash. I'm here with Alex, who is, I guess it would be in the lower part of the screen because it's recording my screen. He works behind the scenes with Human Happy Hour. He does a lot of things like scheduling and making sure our meetings don't go off track and stuff like that. And we have a friend of the show, Johnathan. Hello, Johnathan.
Hey,
Johnathan just had a
hello.
child not long ago. Alex, how old is James?
16 months.
16 months and 2.5 months for Jonathan. Is that right? Or is that wrong?
2 months.
2 months. Okay. And my son is 6 years old. So we're all very qualified to be here for Father's Day. And we're going to be talking about,
Thank
we're going to be asking each other some questions, complaining a little bit, also reminiscing. And Jonathan said he had some interesting tidbits out there about fathers in this country. So it should be fun. Going about 2 hours. Um, let's see. How do we start this off? I would say sickness. because I had to shut Alex up before the show because he was talking about sickness, and it's a huge deal. Alex,
Yeah.
what's going on with sickness in your house?
Yeah. So we're in the typical, you recently started doing daycare, so you're always getting sick phase. Or maybe you're always getting sick until 18 years. I don't know. Like right now, it's just endless. But yeah, I was just complaining about how when he starts getting sick, then we have to get ready to get sick ourselves, and then hopefully it doesn't create a cycle where he becomes sick again, and then it never ends. We've actually had a little bit of time where everyone's okay for a few days, so you have to cherish those time frames when you get them.
Hmm. Do you guys have a situation like you don't get sick yet, right? And it's only been 2 months, right, Jonathan? So
Oh, well, not quite 2 months, almost, but no, we're not getting sick yet.
yeah. Well, I've lived where I live in Vermont my entire life, so I think you know how when you live in the same place forever, you get like all the germs. That's the theory anyway. So I never really get sick from
Mm.
Luke. And he has never been sick until we hit kindergarten. And kindergarten, oh my God, he gets sick once every 2 weeks, and they're so
Mhm.
strict. Not only can he not go if he's had a fever within 24 hours, he can't go to school if he's had fever medication for the last 24
Damn.
hours. So like as soon as you call in sick and say he has a fever, that's 2 days off
Mm,
because unless you don't give him meds and you want to be a jerk because
yeah.
yeah, it's
Huh.
ridiculous. And then they send you a letter that says Luke's missed a lot of school, and then the teachers tell me, "Don't worry about that. We just send that to everyone." I'm like, "What? Why are
Yeah,
you
yeah.
sending it?"
It's Well, I mean, they probably they do need some way to notify people. Maybe it's just an automatic thing that they do. So, the teachers have then heard a lot of people contacting them concerned about it, and they're the ones who have to kind of wave it off as
Yeah.
we know you already know they haven't been at school.
Right. Well,
But
I'm from old school though. I mean, I remember back when we got sick and we got sick too many times, you got in trouble. But they don't do that anymore, I guess. I guess it's just
what do you
school.
mean in trouble?
Well, like they would if you lost like if you missed too many days, my parents always made it seem like I was gonna be like kicked out of school or something.
Oh,
So
Wow.
I say that to them. I'm like, does this really mean something? Because I mean, I don't know what to do. It's your rule that's making him not go to school, not mine.
hmm.
But
Yeah,
apparently,
I
it's
bet
cool now.
there is still a way to get kicked out or something if it really got extreme enough. But
Yeah.
if it was to that extent, then the teacher probably would tell you if you came asking the
Right.
question. So
The letters are real, Jason. The letters are real.
yeah, but I guess, yeah, I have no idea, but I think maybe when I was a kid, it was possible for you to be out too many times. I don't know if I've ever actually seen that.
My
Yeah,
parents
I
were
don't
probably
know.
lying to me.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have people who, somebody get mono or something and they're out for a super long time. They
Mhm.
came back.
Yeah.
Hmm.
These are all things you have to look forward to, Jonathan.
Oh yeah, well, I've experienced this stuff
Oh,
Yeah,
that's right.
he
before
knows.
because I've had
He
two
knows.
prior.
Right. Tell us about that. What was your?
Well, I have a 18. My son just turned 18 on the 27th of May. I have a daughter who's 16, who was born March 15th, 2006,
Years ago.
or seven. Yeah, seven. And so yeah, have various ages, and then I have a newborn who's born May the 18th.
Mm,
So I have all different
Yeah,
yeah.
right now.
that's super important. I need to remember, so hopefully no one will let me forget. But that is very interesting that you have an adult basically now, and you have a teenager like in the super height of teenagerness.
Yeah.
That gives us a lot of coverage for the
Mhm. And
ages
so
that
do
are
I.
represented.
My daughter is
Yes.
18, so I have a 6-year-old and an
Yes.
18-year-old. She's graduating on Friday, and it will be the first time in almost a year that Luke has been in the car, and so I've been trying to acclimate him to it because he's autistic, and he gets into routine. So now when I try to bring him to the car,
Mm.
he sits down on the ground and puts his feet in the air. He doesn't get like mad. It's just his peaceful protesting, like no. So I've been slowly acclimating him to the car again. Like we'll walk around it every day after school, or I even open the door and then close it again, and he gets a little
Mhm.
bit like whoa. So yeah, it's rough. So but Friday he's getting in the car.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. And I think worth pointing out that you have a daughter, Jonathan, and yeah, and so do you, Jayson, but I don't have the daughter perspective, except for what I might assume about it might be different. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We might have to talk about what you all perceive as the differences, because I assume there are differences.
Yeah, Jonathan, talk about that because I'd love to know the difference between daughters.
well, it's different raising a boy versus a girl, or if you would say how we use the term boy and girl.
Mhm.
But it's kind of it's the same up until middle school, except for how they clean themselves in the bathroom.
Mhm.
But I think up in when middle school, you have other like problems to like deal with, as far as like peer pressure, different types of peer pressure for a boy versus a girl.
Yeah,
So it's
like
hard to
when does
explain.
patriarchy start to actually have a serious influence?
Oh God, yeah, early.
Early. Okay. So you have to be conscious of patriarchy, like what do you mean by early?
What do you mean by patriarchy? Making
You
sure
know
I
how
know.
you're sort of thinking, all right, society kind of treats
You mean chauvinism?
men right. And then so there are like inherent disadvantages or advantages one side or the other. When do you actually feel like you have to become conscious of that or have some conversations about that, or when does it actually impact how you parent? Because you would expect, they're all kind of acting the same up until a certain point, but then society starts to influence them a lot. So
Yeah, I
when
don't
do
know. I
you
think
care
it
about it?
starts super early. Because actually one of the things about autism, they used to think that boys were more susceptible to being autistic than girls, and there's been some studies now that say no, just that boys have been allowed to be themselves more, and girls are always being quieted down and you act like a
Mm.
lady. So it's kind of a double-edged positive, really. I guess I don't know, really, because a girl is not allowed to be themselves as much as a
Mhm.
boy. I feel anyway. It seems that way.
Huh.
Maybe not as much now, but in the day.
Now when you say patriarch, like exactly like,
Well, I'll clarify then, or maybe this will help. You know how Jayson was just saying that there was that imbalance with autism because parents were sort of telling the girls to be a lady and be quiet.
right.
I think that is like a one of those artifacts
Yeah,
of
no,
patriarchy,
Mm.
you know, and maybe people are subconsciously exerting that on kids.
I'm hearing you, and that's why I was thinking exactly how I wanted to go and respond,
Mhm.
because it depends also on the type of father that's in the household, or even the mother is, or is it you, do you have a father who's like all into sports and like straight, I'm a man, and
Mhm.
like you can't show emotion? Or is it the type of father that you fall like you can cry and like, oh, it's all right, you can cry, and I understand,
Right.
I don't want you to cry, but yeah, it's all right, you can deal with it.
Mhm.
But it depends on like what type of influence you have.
So if the type of father is different, then the influence of patriarchy starts at a different time. Is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
Yeah, that
yes.
Oh,
makes
okay.
sense.
So then when is the, I guess, earliest it can start? And does it, well, first off, does it start earlier for someone who is unhealthy when it comes to that topic? Or does it start earlier for a father who is like has a healthy mindset when it comes to patriarchy and masculinity and stuff like that? Who starts it earlier, and how early is that?
Hmm. I think it starts early if the father is a guy, and the mother general. I
Mhm.
mean, I don't know about always. Nothing's always. But like when I was a kid, I was told don't be a fruit. You're being fruity, or you're stop
Yeah,
crying and stuff like that.
right.
I'm not like that with Luke. If he's crying, I hug him and I'm there for him. I want him to feel safe. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Um, I don't I don't think I think that's the right way to do it, personally.
So that's like from the very start of when I guess you
Yeah.
start acknowledging they're communicating at all.
Oh
You're
yeah.
already reflecting something back in terms of, oh, don't be a sissy or whatever people
Yeah.
used to say all the time. You're
No.
either reflecting something like that back, or you're reflecting back vulnerability and that type of thing.
Yeah. I think it
It's
makes the whole
interesting.
masculinity issue happen when you're too uh just ridiculous with your boys, like I think
Hmm.
what's it called? Toxic masculinity.
Hmm.
I think
Yeah.
that comes from treating your boys differently. I don't even think about of Luke as a boy or a girl.
Hmm.
I really don't. He's pretty, and everybody always says what a beautiful girl you have, and I don't even correct them because I just don't care.
Hmm.
I just don't. People are
Yeah.
like, why don't you ever correct it? I'm like, what? Why? Who cares?
That
I
is
don't.
interesting. I feel like it matters, but I don't know why. Does it matter, Jonathan? Like, what
um
does it?
for me, just seeing like all the problems that we have in the world,
Hmm.
I don't feel like that's like, oh, that's a hill I'm willing to die on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Does it? Yeah. I mean, I'm wondering because obviously that's like a big. I was raised by my grandparents, and that would be like a really big deal. Uh, at least for some amount of like the older generation that I was around as a kid. And I'm wondering why it was like it can't be completely irrational, but maybe it's just misguided in some way. Um, but yeah, something about that makes me feel like, oh, I would want people to be able to tell he's a boy, because maybe that would, I don't know, be less annoying for him. Maybe it's something as basic as that, or maybe it's just some ingrained like crazy society thing.
Well,
I
for
don't
me,
know.
honestly, since Luke's autistic and he's nonverbal,
Mhm.
he would probably correct people if they did it. So then I would probably feel more of a need to, but he's, I say he because he's Luke, and but I don't
Yeah.
really think about it because he certainly isn't bothered by it. He doesn't care at all.
Yeah.
So therefore,
Yeah.
I can see that though. If he wasn't nonverbal and he was just like, "I'm a boy," and I would probably adopt that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Huh.
that makes sense.
That's interesting to think about. But yeah, I'm hijacking the conversation because I want to hear some of the stats that Johnathan has. But
Oh yeah, I'm not
I'll,
even sure what they are.
I'm gonna return to that thread and indulge my curiosity about those perspectives, probably because that's how I rock. But yeah, what do you have, Johnathan, for the interesting
I
stats? Because
some
yeah.
of the statistics I have, I have some numbers from the National Center for Fathering and the Fatherless Generation. Anyhow, it says that 71% of high school dropouts come from fatherless homes, and I looked at I read these statistics and I kind of laugh at them, right? But then again, I had to remind myself that I am one of the people who comes from the fatherless home, who recently, got back on track. So I defeated those odds. But a lot of you don't realize you're a statistic. You might
Mhm.
be doing well in life, but you might be in those numbers. You just might be one that beat the odds. Um,
Hmm.
Another number is 98% of all homeless and runaway children come from fatherless homes. So
Wow,
yeah,
98.
98%. So if you want to
Damn.
do your part, just take care of your child.
Yeah.
Set a good example. You don't have to stay with the mother for the whole life. I'm not a perfect guy, but I
Wow.
take care of my responsibilities, and I
Okay,
think
so
that's
let me.
important.
Yeah, I need to clarify on that stat because that's really insane. When it says fatherless home, does that specifically mean that the father is not in the life, or does it mean just like maybe it's divorced and shared custody type of thing? What is it talking about specifically? Because that's a huge percentage. So I'm like trying to figure out, wow, you know,
I think it means just not involved at
in
all.
like
Like,
their life at all kind of thing.
yeah, just
Yeah, yeah.
not there, non-existent.
And that even and then to ask another question about, or I guess clarifying one, this is specifically the case where it's the father that is missing versus like when it's a single dad.
Right. Well,
Hmm.
I looked specifically for father, and I can't say how some when they ask some children, they might view the father in a home as their biological father. So
Hmm.
that statistic wasn't
Yeah,
that clear where it said biological or just the father figure. It didn't specify that.
yeah. So then did it go into what the, you know, what the reason was? Is there some kind of like reason assessed for why their father wasn't around?
Well, I'm sure there's various. It didn't go in there
It
as
didn't
far as
go there. Yeah.
reasoning, but these numbers can be reversed, and they could be reversed through mentoring, like to just be involved. It doesn't have to be your child. You can just mentor a child if you do care, because it says
Mhm.
also that 55% are more likely to attend college after being mentored. 90% are interested in becoming a mentor themselves after being mentored. the 138% are more likely to hold leadership positions after being mentored. 46% are less likely to use drugs. 81% more likely to participate in sports. So what I'm just trying to point out is just it's important for a child to have two parents who are involved. But also I want to point out that it's difficult when you have a country that's kind of makes so much money off of mass incarceration. So they're taking fathers out of the home. A lot of times they're taking good fathers out, or sometimes if someone might have a drinking or a substance abuse issue, taking them out of the home and putting them in prison is actually worse for society because it does not benefit you or me. That doesn't get crime down. It doesn't help to prevent crime, to incarcerate someone. But this is what we can continue to be told, and it's sold to us by our government, who prefers not to invest in communities. Now, if we look at, I don't know the exact numbers, but we know that the police force continues to grow through each country, especially in the United States, the different states, different counties. Police department is very massive. Their budget is huge. They always spend more money on law enforcement than they spend on social services. So when we do vote, we need to start addressing these issues through our voice, which is our vote. And we should start to go to our local city council meetings. We should let them know that we care. We should try to get more money for our teachers who are in these classrooms, who have been crying and trying to get more money and spending money out of their pockets. For years. We don't really hear them until our child is in school and we see how bad things are. It's unfortunate because our government had so much money to send overseas. They have so much money to basically tell people that they don't want you to not be violent. They want to invest in violence. They don't invest in peace. And we need to, as community members, as human beings, need to start to look at other solutions. And it's not investing in the police department, but it's investing in each other.
Right. Like what is something that I guess would help reduce the amount of people who are growing up without a father in the home? Like what could people expect or ask for that would help with that? Because that seems like a big root part of the situation.
Well, I guess one thing that you could do is make give people a livable wage. Allow people the ability to take care of their responsibility. And also with doing that, allow people, daycare shouldn't be so expensive. You shouldn't have to have a family member. You should be able to send your child to a center if you would like. It shouldn't cost you an arm and a leg to get your child daycare. Like, why is it so expensive?
Yeah, would that be like, okay, you have to subsidize the daycare, or is it like, oh, you need like a public daycare kind of thing?
Well, I don't know. The government has plenty of money to send overseas. They have plenty of money. They're sending your tax-paying dollars overseas, and then they tell you that they can't help you. How fair is that?
You know what though? Maybe if I'm gonna play devil's advocate, or be a chaos agent here, here's what the government is doing. It has stood up an amazing jobs program called the Department of Defense. And so when your kid does get to 18, if they don't have any options, they can volunteer to go fight in a war.
That's the problem,
and then that will pay for their college and stuff like that.
That's the problem.
Yeah,
Who
they're
would
grooming
who
people.
in their right mind,
I'm saying you should be
unless you
thanking
are
them for that
your
great
back is
No.
jobs
against
program.
the wall, is going to subject themselves to that potential death.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, you can be as patriotic as you want to be, but doesn't mean you want to die for it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ridiculous that your government makes you
Mhm.
choose.
It's
you're
a
playing
pretty
the
Do you love
simple.
odds.
me? Do you love me enough to kill yourself for
It's a
me?
pretty simple formula. They make you have babies, and then they make you have poverty, and then they make you a soldier, and then you
Yeah.
die.
Right.
It's
Like-
You know, it's a gamble though, but life is a gamble, right? You know, it's
yes, it is
Yeah.
definitely a gamble.
but
for
maybe
sure.
there are things that they could do prior to the person turning 18 that would be helpful as well. I guess that's what we're saying.
Yeah, I
Sure.
think that there are things that would show, like, I believe in my mind, and it might sound like crazy, but I believe that this could be the greatest country in the world. I honestly believe that. I'm not even just saying it because it sounds good. But unfortunately, because of racism, you have some people who know exactly what to do and how to do it and how to get there, but they're unwilling for everyone to get there at the same time. And until we can cross that hill, we're literally just having a standoff, and we're in the process, everything is going to crumble.
Oh,
Everything
yes.
will crumble because we don't want everyone to have the same things. It's crazy. It's insane. And at the end of the day, we're all humans. No matter where anyone is from, we're all humans, just trying to live our lives in the time that we have here.
Yeah. But the problem is that there, of course, it's been said 1,000 times, there are the people that are controlling everything because they have all the money. And generally, they know that if they were to support minorities, they're kind of making their lineage less important and kind of dying out. Like one of the things in this country, I guess the minorities are starting to overtake the white people, which I think is great. but the but the old white people, or the old guard, they don't like that at all, because it means they know that down the line they'll have less influence, and their kids will have less, and they want power.
Mhm.
I know, happy Father's Day, but
Yeah.
but
I
it's
mean,
true.
it is true. It is
Yeah.
true. But
Interesting.
I mean, how are you going to look at it? Are you going to look at it through your own eyes? Are you going to look at it through the eyes of CNN or Fox? Or most people don't think for themselves. So
Mhm.
we see things repeated over and over and over again, but people don't stop and think, am I okay with this? Is this something that I want to do?
Mhm.
You see the things, the different stuff on, like, before my previous job, they had posters up in there, donate to Ukraine. On the at the same time, the job was underpaying me, not
Mhm.
Ukraine.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
while you're telling me to donate my hard-earned money, you're not paying me fairly.
Yeah.
So, like, a lot of times I notice, like, messages like this are being told by either our government, or through the media, or through our employers, but we don't stop and think, like, what are they treating me right? Is this group treating me fairly? Are they paying taxes? Like, the church has a lot to say about different issues.
Mhm.
But when it comes to, like, certain issues, as far as they can help, like, what would
Mhm.
Jesus do? They're like, no,
Mhm.
Jesus would pay his taxes. But we don't hear this kind of stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think
Yeah.
what you're saying is, like, this this pattern that we have in our society makes it less likely for kids to have supportive parents, because the parents are having such anxiety attacks over being poor and what they're going to do. And when you're not happy, if you don't have that lowest level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you panic, and you can't concentrate on being a good parent, and maybe maybe you would have stayed with your spouse if you were both secure at one level and could grow. But that panic makes you crazy, really. I mean, I've been there a million times, and nowhere near as bad as a lot of people, but I've had that fear of what the hell am I going to do next. And it's because people are paid less because like, for instance, the UPS strike that's coming up, I hope they do it. I really, really do. But because, like, in the 80s, I guess they did it also because before that, there was a point where you could work at UPS and pay for your family to live a comfortable life, and all you did was one person had one job at UPS. Now, they're making them all just under 30 hours or whatever the level is to make you full time. And so they're going to strike, and they have like something like 250,000 people in their union, which is wonderful because it'll set a precedent. Yeah, it'll set a precedent for other companies to be like, or other employees to be like, hey, you know what? We can take this back. But the problem is it's a cycle, because this happened in the 80s, and then over time the company slips in little things here and there, and little and then so then now do we have to fight for it again in 20 years? I mean, when I guess everything's a cycle. It's a little frustrating.
Right.
Very
Everything
frustrating.
everything is a cycle. Yeah, you're right. And it sounds like in order for the cycle not to screw you over really hard, you need to have some amount of vigilance. There has to be an ongoing effort to sustain whatever progress that you've made. And if I'm thinking about it and maybe tying it to the parenthood topic, I'm trying to figure out, well, how come there is not energy in order to sustain that, that ongoing vigilance? Is that because, before you're a parent, maybe you're not as concerned about it, and then after you're a parent, you don't have time for it anymore? How come, how come it's possible to, undo the progress to such an extent that another like major shock needs to occur in order to maintain it?
Well, I think one big problem is we don't have community anymore.
Yeah.
And without community, you kind of really don't really remember what was there before.
What do you mean? I
So
was on
we're
Twitter just maybe 30 minutes ago.
Community. Yeah, I think it's because we don't have time. We're all hustling for the to make ends meet. Do you have time to go be an activist? I don't. I mean,
no, because
I'd have
being
to
an
bring.
activist doesn't pay your bills. I mean, I'm just being honest.
No,
you can't
it's
keep
true.
your lights on being an activist, unless you really put the time in. You might eventually be able to, but it's like everything is like to be helpful shouldn't be so hard.
Okay,
To
so
have good ideas.
if people at some point in the past had to rise up to do something in order to get some, protection or enable to achieve stability, was it different then? Did they, were they more able to be activists? Is it harder to be an activist now? Or is
Well,
it one of those things where just a lot of sacrifices needed every time around, so that's just the way it is?
I think it's only harder because we overthink it, or the majority overthink it. Like they like the fancy things, they like what's sold to them, they like the glitz, the glamour, the big TV screens. It makes them feel like they're going to another place. It makes you feel like you're escaping. So when you are, this is a world that if everything you want to buy the next thing to kind of fit in, to feel like you belong, you continue to work just as hard, even though you're working harder and getting less. But everyone else is doing it is what your your mind is, well, so and so has that and I want it too. So we don't really stop and think like, what effect is this having on me?
Yeah. It's also about generational wealth.
Yeah.
I've been pretty much poor since I left since my mom died when I was 15. My dad left when I was no, she died when I was 12. He died or he left when I was 16, and I was alone. And from that point until a year ago, I was pretty poor, even when I had the business, because it was the jewelry store, because it just didn't quite make enough to be
Right.
happy, feel comfortable.
Yep.
But through my marriage, we had a house. Why did we have a house? Because Krista's grandparents helped us pay for it, because her grandmother lived with us.
Okay.
When we sold the house because we got a divorce, I got half, which I deserve because I have the child all by myself now, is full time. But the point is that generational wealth that I wasn't even born into
Yep.
has allowed me to actually play the stock market. And I would not have been able to do that without generational wealth. And the people that don't have generational wealth are minorities and immigrants, because they were not allowed to have generational wealth.
Yep.
and that causes the whole thing. And
Yes.
so now we're trying to get out of that, but then the elite white people are like, no, we like it that way. Make America great again. And that's it's so frustrating, and it sucks to know it. I hate knowing it, because there was a point where I didn't know it. And I was a much happier person then.
Right.
And I just assume that the people that don't know it are just going around going, la la la, oh, it's not that bad. You just have to work hard. You just gotta make sure you work. If you have to work 3 jobs, then that's fine. You just work 3 jobs then. And that's bullshit.
Yeah. You know, that's it's interesting that you say that. You have to think, okay, in there you know, aren't there a lot of people who are sort of concerned with justice these days? And so this is, you know, maybe central, you know, economic justice. And is that anything someone cares about or that exists? It doesn't seem like that seems to be a very central topic on anyone's plate of concerns. There, you know, there's no real publicity around whatever the specific struggles of parents are in the economic conditions. No one ever talks about generational wealth. So you know, what's up with that? Is there really anything to do about that, or is it that so few people are really aware of it that you can't expect anything to really come of it? Do people not know this, or do they know it, and they're just okay with it, or maybe just, you know, they don't hate it enough in order for it to change any of their behavior? Is that what the deal is, or does nobody know?
Well, that's a very good question. I think there are people who know, and I think that the people in the communities affected know, and I think the people who are pulling the strings know. But I think the people, I would say, who are in the middle of America, who don't really have to really experience those things, who might be struggling, don't know. You're from a certain class, you might not understand what it means to have generational. I've always been poor and all yada yada yada. I get it, but they don't. A lot of people, they don't understand how hard it is for, like, say a person of color who, like, this system's never been fair, and now all of a sudden you're not getting. We don't get true history in this country, so that's what makes it so unfortunate to even explain certain things. There's a book called The Color of Law that points out numerous times that our government has basically allowed for people's rights to be violated, and how they basically set up and build this country as far as the streets and the design of it in a way that the people of color are pretty much around the wealthier neighborhoods. Like, even here, I'm in Hollywood. It would have been easier, even less traffic, if they put the freeway going through Beverly Hills. Well, the rich people didn't want that, and rich people run this world, and so, but they don't do the work, they don't create the roads, they didn't create the infrastructure, they didn't sacrifice a goddamn thing. But since the people without the money who put in the work think that their labor doesn't mean anything, they don't stick together long enough to form a plan. And this is unfortunate because, yes, it might have started off as being a poor, a black, poor white thing, or being the only ones who are being taken advantage of. But if you look closely at things, now anyone that's even poor, if this country goes to battle with another country, and the children and the babies come home and they grow up poor, they're here, and they're all of a sudden they realize that the America that they thought it wasn't that country either. So a lot of people are being educated, where if we had a true school system, would have received this message sooner.
So, okay. We've gone a lot of places with this, and I forget where exactly we started. I think it was in one of the stats or whatever. But
98%.
mean, I feel like, there are, like you all are saying, there's a big variance in how aware people are of the struggles of parents or people who aren't parents, just basically everyone. And so there are a lot of things that are outside of the sphere that they think they can control. And maybe one of the reasons why progress or things are not really moving in a direction that seems super promising to me right now is because people are worried about something else, or the things that they can control, since they, have so little time to use it in a discretionary manner. So what about that? What are the things that I guess we think are important as parents to do, that we all kind of have control over, uh in order to reach those, general goals that all parents have of, trying to raise somebody who's well adjusted, or who's able to survive, however it is that you want to look at it. What do we think are the important things for us to do that we definitely have control of in day-to-day life or week-to-week life?
I think one of the things that I do with Mila, because I think it sounds kind of lame, I guess, but I think I've instilled in her that it's okay not to have the best stuff, because I think America has a real problem with needing to have the next best thing, and everybody seems to be in a big competition with each other. And I personally think a person's character is so much more interesting than what their car is. But I, like, I'll hear her, like, maybe a couple years ago when she was 16, she would say stuff like, she would say things like, she actually one time said something like, about us, all her friends are rich and we're poor, and I was just like, really? I mean, that's really a huge difference between rich and poor. Are you sure that that it's just that they live in a house? Because it was when we lived in an apartment and we don't. And we have two cars, like what does that mean? And why does that matter? But it mattered to her because at the time, anyway, not anymore. She's very different. But at the time, with her peers, they all would talk about stuff like what you gonna get, and what who's got the bling, and are you are you juiced if you have the right clothes, and like there's all that stuff, and you can't get that without a lot of money, and you're taught you can't get a lot of money unless you are maybe just a little bit not cool of a person, because let's face it, if you're going to go from nothing to being rich, you're either really, really, really lucky, or you have to be really, really ruthless. I think anyway. It not always. Obviously, there's an exception, but I think that's pretty much the way it is. And I think teaching them that, you know what, you're cool driving the Dodge Omni with one door that's blue and the rest of it's gray. I think that's fun. It's a quirk. It's interesting. Rather than you're worth nothing because that guy has a whatever fucking Maserati. I don't know what the hell. What's a cool car? I have no idea.
Yeah, I guess that counts. We'll take Maserati for that.
So yeah,
one.
being humble, I guess, is a quicker way to say it.
Being humble.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Being humble. So then, I mean, I think I understand that, but isn't there, I don't know, isn't there an aspect of preparing them for the world that is about teaching them if what you want is to be mega powerful, then you need to be ruthless?
Yeah,
Or
it's a catch-22.
are you trying to teach them not to crave mega power, and then you don't want to give them the tools in order to accomplish it? Or is it
Good point.
necessary just for them to be successful enough to be happy? Or for them to be happy, do you have to give them an amount of tools that is about being ruthless, or surviving in what is a very competitive society?
It's a good question because if you don't prepare them, then they can, fall back. I know, and it's a catch-22. It's almost like we all have to agree at the same time.
Yeah, like, I mean, it has to come up when you're I guess when they're at the point where they're aspiring to do something specifically, or they want to be something when they grow up, all the way up to the time that they're trying to figure out if they want to go to college. And then if they decide they want to, they're trying to figure out what school. They're playing sports and trying to decide if they want to commit 100% to playing those sports. They're kind of making all of these decisions that are pointing them a direction in life. And if you're thinking ahead about them trying to survive in the world, you have some concern for them to make good decisions right now instead of learning everything the hard way.
Yeah.
How do you insert yourself into that, or do you not? Do you just observe all of these decisions that they're making through middle school and high school, and you're focusing on being very non-judgmental about everything? Or are you trying to think ahead to the world is a lot more crazy and oh, look who we have?
Also, I
Are
want
you
to
trying
say
to think ahead?
I want to say hi to Bounces and Boings. She or he, I don't know, is a good friend of of Luke's YouTube channel.
Oh, cool.
Hey there.
Hello. Yeah, they said hello, but I don't know exactly how long ago, so hopefully they're still around.
Yeah.
If you are, hopefully you put a like.
Yes, please.
Is that what we're supposed to say?
Yeah, I think that's what you're supposed to say.
No, it's
so
not.
reiterate the question. So how can we say it again? Say it like explain it a little bit.
So you're trying to let them make their own decisions about what they're going to do in life. And you want to teach them to be humble and to not think that, money is everything and that they have to pursue it at all costs. But you also understand that they need a certain amount of success inside of this society to gain happiness. So when they're making decisions about what they're going to do with their life or what they're doing right now, how much are you inserting your own opinion, as their father, into those decisions that they're making? Because, you have some amount of influence no matter what. Are you teaching them about how you got to be ruthless if you want to be a mega millionaire? Because if they aspire to having power, that's what they need. Or do you not try to sort of pass those skills and that disposition to them and hope that they, make it by kindness?
Yeah.
I don't think that you should teach them or raise them like the ruthless route. I think you should try to ask them like questions about what they like and what their interests are and pursue it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And you don't want to, I think if you teach them what you know as to watch out for, but also instill empathy in people, like it's good to be it's good to be comfortable, but don't run over anybody to get there. I mean, if you're an actor and you know that there's a audition coming up, and you know someone that's good for the part and they're your type, tell your friend, and both of you go. Don't be like, I'm not going to tell my friend. Like it's one example, but like, you know, there's a million examples like that in my life where I've let someone know or let someone in on something that only I knew, and I could have just kept it to myself. But and by doing that, this wasn't my plan, but what I made was friends and allies that respect my character, and when they have something interesting, they tell me, and you become more of a community that way, rather than a bunch of people that are just like, where are you going on Saturday? Oh, you went to an audition? Why didn't you tell me? And now you have it's just the way it should be, is everyone should be looking out for each other. And I do think there's a value to that, and you can do well in life if you're kind to people. I think that's its own power.
Okay. And that's pretty important.
Yeah, you may not be a billionaire, you won't be Jeff Bezos, but you might be, you know, upper middle class, because people like you and they want to help you, and you can help them. And yeah, I don't think there should be billionaires anyway. So, but
so that's I mean, that's interesting. I don't know. Maybe people for the most part learn the ruthlessness just from the world, as you know, they explore, and they have all of these little micro moments through life where somebody's like a dick about something, and then they kind of learn how that person maybe benefited from it or not. There's all of that stuff that's going to happen naturally. But yeah, for me, as someone who, you know, I'm still in the very early stages of all of this, I think to myself, okay, there are a lot of things that I have to decide about how I want to be a parent. A lot of different things, but one of those things is about, like, how much am I supposed to try to use my own experience to guide them in a direction that seems to make sense and will help them succeed, versus, you know, how much do I need to really background all of that stuff and just really be supportive of them doing anything, even if I don't think they have aptitude for it.
Well, let me ask you guys a question. Let's say a couple of years from now, like first grade, few years from now, and your child just doesn't want to go to school. What happened in your household when you were that kid, as opposed to what would you implement your strategy? Would you do what your parents did or your parental figures did, or would you change it? And what were and what will those those things be? Like, my dad would have turned over my mattress and swore and told me to get the hell out of the house and go to school. And even if I was crying, no, you're going to school, because he was taught that. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying that's how it was. Myself, I do it very differently. If Luke, well, again, he's autistic, so he's not like saying, you know, he's not bargaining with me, but I can tell when he's in stress and in distress. If I get the pants out and start getting him dressed and he's crying, I know there's a reason. Now I can't go, Luke, what's wrong? But I can take his temperature. I can see if everything is are you a rash? You're like, what's going on? Sometimes he just really doesn't want to go. And I feel like sometimes letting him be, letting him communicate that to me, and then me go, you know what, we're staying home today, is a really powerful thing, because I'm not being the tyrant, you know. Now, how does that work in real life? I don't think I don't think that's going to wreck him. I think it's going to teach him that I love him and I'm going to, I want him to be safe and happy. Now, if he does it again tomorrow, no, that's a little different. We're gonna set boundaries. We're gonna say, okay, today you just did not want to go, and you know what? Give me a hug. We're staying home. Here's the iPad. What do you want to eat? Tomorrow, if he tries it again, no, that's a little different. And I think you can do that. You can judge it. You can do it that way. Whereas my dad was just, nope, no exceptions, none, zero, and it was strict, super strict. What about you guys?
You want to go, Jonathan?
Oh, you also know because you've gone through it, Johnathan.
Well, since like I come from a single parent household, so I don't even remember like one time where I didn't not want to go to school, where I always wanted to go because that was around like other people, and maybe I just liked school in that way until school didn't like me anymore. But yeah, I never said I don't want to go to school. So I liked school. I liked science and those kind of things. But I felt like once I got to middle school, more people who looked like me didn't like school so much. Small few seemed like they were like really loving school.
Yeah.
In my area.
Right.
But even with my kids, they're in school now, but I noticed in elementary school, my daughter, wonderful honors and all of these special classes, and I think that they rushed her in those type of classes early, to where she just really didn't care to want to go to school to do the work. And this is a kid who's like very smart, and teachers always talk about how smart she is, but when it comes also in the neighborhood where she's in, as well, also talk about investing in schools, because if it's a rougher neighborhood, the schools aren't going to be as good. But there are a lot of good teachers in these neighborhoods, wonderful teachers actually, but they don't invest in the community. It's like they're already planning for the failure of the school system.
Yeah, I guess, Jayson, my experience is probably more similar to what your experience was. I was raised, I guess, like combination. I was mostly raised or grew up with my grandparents. And yeah, like when you were asking the question, I was just thinking to myself, I'm not really sure that I would have had any of the confidence necessary to say I don't want to go to school. Like that would have been
You didn't even think about it.
That would have been such an unacceptable thing to say or ask for, that I really don't remember a time where I would express that. I mean, when I was living with my mom, then I think that, I was already old enough, I guess, where she would just listen to what I have to say. But when I was like a little kid, that was when I was sort of half with my mom, half with my grandparents. When I was with my grandparents, that I'm not sure exactly what would have happened, but it would have been something terrible. I wouldn't have even ever thought to ask for that. Like, just asking would have probably got me in some decent trouble. So yeah, I can't imagine that. So how that reflects today actually, concerns me some deal. I think that everybody has some stuff to deal with from their childhood and growing up and all of that stuff. It's not always parent stuff, but it's something. For me, I think there are a lot of aspects of parenthood that are going to be awkward or hard for me to figure out where exactly I land on things, because I'm trying to reconcile what I think was beneficial about that experience with what I think was abusive and detrimental in that experience. and trying to, do the things that are part one and not do the things that are part two.
Yeah.
Uh, and that just takes a lot of thinking. While I have time ahead of time, I think about and worry about how I'm going to deal with some stuff. But right now, it's all
Yeah.
just thinking and putting it into action lightly because he's still just a toddler. But
Yeah.
yeah, that stuff will come back around.
Hmm.
It definitely will.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about
Mhm.
like eat up all your food? Did you guys experience any of that?
Yes, that was how we did it. Yes, you could get out of that with good enough reason, uh at least. But yeah, that was basically the expectation. Um yeah, and there were some times you were allowed to have a preference about what it is you were eating.
Oh, right.
Like,
Exactly.
nah, this is what we're eating.
Yep.
Like that. Oh, you don't like that? Well,
Yeah.
you'll make it, eat
Yep.
that. That's what that
Yeah.
was. Um, so yeah, it is hard. And now in situations I have to think about, well, he's a toddler now, and there's one way of dealing with them.
Hmm.
But then as we figure out how we're going to really communicate with each other when he's really talking and all of that type of stuff, then you have to really kind of be mindful and
Hmm.
serious about how you're applying your philosophy and whether you're doing that consistently. um and yeah, I do think that that's at least of some bit of concern for me. They have that saying where if you go through bad things when you're a kid, you know what not to do or whatever, and sure, I
Hmm.
believe that to some extent. But I think if you go through bad things as a kid, then you grow up not adjusted properly, and you have
Hmm.
to be mindful and concerned that
Yeah.
maybe you're going to apply some shit incorrectly
Hmm.
because you haven't seen what right looks like.
Yeah.
So that for me is something that I am concerned about. But yeah, what are you going to do? Be mindful of it and drive on, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. It's difficult. Some people do exactly what their parents did. I mean, I'm very different than my parents, but I also know parents that are exactly like their parents. Like it's you always say, "Oh, I'm not going to be like my parents when I grow up," but then you still were taught a certain way, especially if you were taught what love is. Because I was taught love was at any moment someone's going to start yelling, and it's going to be really scary, and but I'll get an apology tomorrow, and maybe I'll get a toy. That was love for me, or I'd get something. You're my son. I'm sorry I yell sometimes, but it's because I care about you. And like, Dad, you're really scary. That's a weird way to show love to me,
Hmm.
because it makes you think. Because you get all these brain engrams that all these pathways built, and now you may not believe it, but you start seeking out people that remind you of love, and they're not good for you if you had
Yeah.
that kind of a childhood. So
Yeah.
you end up with a tyrant
Oh
for a
man.
for a spouse, or an
Oh.
abusive person for a spouse, or something like that.
Ah, I hate that because it's so true and feels so true and has to be so true. And they have that kind of saying that like you marry your mom or your dad,
Yeah.
depending on which way you're going. And it makes me feel horrible because I'm kind of like, well, dang, I'm not sure that I'm not sure my wife really has great memories of her dad. Like, if I'm like that, then I'm like, really, I could be pretty trash at this. That
Hmm.
feels kind of scary to me.
Interesting.
Um, and but then I can see how my, wife is so much like my mom instead of being like my grandmother, which
Hmm.
is weird to me, because I feel like I was with my grandparents for so much of growing up and so many sort of integral moments that uh you know, I guess it could go one way or the other. But yeah, that is a super interesting thing, but it's devastating how sort of like real that seems and true that seems. Uh, and yeah, what I can take from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jayson kind of rekindled a memory when he said, "What is love?" Because I remember when I was a child and my mom would buy food. Remember, mother's single parent, uh, and I'm like, "Thank you, mom." She's saying, "Thank God," or this. These are her type of responses. And reason why I'm talking about community why it's so important, because I can only imagine a single parent raising 3 children. You're stressed all the damn time.
Oh yeah.
Like you would love to show your children love and affection, but you're trying to figure out how you gonna keep these lights on,
Yep.
how you gonna pay the rent.
Yeah.
And my mother was a nurse. It wasn't like she was like
Yeah.
sitting around without education. My mother was a nurse. She was trying to provide for her family,
Mhm.
but at the end of the day, it was still like overwhelming.
You just came full circle. That was the whole thing about parents and how can we be better parents? Make us whole. America,
Mhm.
let us have a chance to make enough money to be comfortable so we're not stressed all the freaking time.
Yeah.
Because that can
Mm.
really, yeah, like I said about the generational wealth, and I'm playing the stock market, and I'm somehow I have an aptitude for it. I didn't know I was going to, but I do. If I did not, if I had to go get a job 9 to 5, 40 hours a week, I don't know what the hell I would do. Luke requires a lot of attention. He's autistic, and if I were gone 8 hours a day, and he goes to school at 7:30 to 2:30, what job am I what job do I get? What do I, and then if he's sick, I have to go get him. What job do I go get?
Yep.
And
It's
that was scary when I
crazy.
first got the divorce, and I moved in. I'm like, I need to make money. Of course, I was
Yeah.
kind of a single parent at the time anyway, but yeah, but like, you know, we had the jewelry store, and that was the income, and because it was our own business, you could kind of make your own hours. But I wasn't the jewelry person. My wife was, so
Mm.
I wasn't prepared to go and carry on the legacy of the jewelry store. So I had to figure out, what am I going to do for a job? And I see these people on my Facebook that are like, I have 3 kids, I work 2 jobs, I'm a single parent, and I just, my head just wants to explode. And how do you do that? And do you ever see your kids? Are they just living with daycare? And daycare is so expensive, you need the second job to pay for daycare. And we're wondering why kids are growing up you know, not feeling loved and not feeling there for them. It's because we're not able to, because our society has made it that way, and
Yeah,
it sucks. I'm
it's crazy. Like, uh, I was, you know, I told you my mom was a single parent. Now I go back where I had my first child. I wasn't with the mother at the time, but I communicated through the whole pregnancy. I get a paper from child support office, so I go because I want to be there for my child. I want to be there. I'm still there. I still talk every day, and so I go and I sign this paper, right? Because I want to make sure that you guys know that I'm taking care of my child. At the end of the day, whose business is it that I'm taking care of my child but me and my child's, right? So I go and I sign this paper. Well, I get a little behind along the way, because who can look 18 years down the road and tell you what their finances are going to be, right? So I get behind. We're gonna speed it up to when my son was 17. The mother agreed to end the case. I paid the amount that she agreed to. I paid her. Well, guess what? They don't check up on anything, so they didn't believe that I paid her, and they put more paperwork on me. Well,
Oh my
since I
god.
document everything after all of this, after even the lawyer who said that they could end this didn't end it, and I
Wow.
paid. And so I I had to prove myself. I had to prove the fraud, even though they did the investigation on the fraud. They would never tell me how much they took off for the fraud. They just closed the case, so I'm paying it off. But and the whole time, my point is, they took my license away. I know that being a father affects your ability to drive a car. And
What?
also, doesn't that limit my ability to provide for my family, taking away my license?
What the hell does
But,
that have to do with anything?
Exactly. This is all connected to the crime bill and Clinton's.
No, you
People
talk
love,
about 94 crime bills?
yes.
God damn it.
Seriously?
So you have now, if you get far enough behind, and mind you, let me forget to add, they add interest. So you miss a payment. Every time I pay, there's interest that's added on. They add processing fees, but we're for the families. So the state did nothing for me or for my children. If anything, they loaned money and charged me interest for it, and I didn't even ask for a loan.
What the hell?
Wow.
So you're down on your luck, so we're gonna take your
So-
license away? Why don't you break my ankle?
Yeah. So now I'm paying it back, right? And I'm literally almost done within a year, little over. I'll be completely done. But mind you, I paid thousands of dollars, right? And so, but most of it is interest. I'm literally have already paid the principal amount. Now, when I talk to these people and I tell them what's going on, like my daughter was having problems with school, and I like told them and suggested and tried to get help. They're like, well, we can't do nothing about that. You know, you have to take care of that on your own. You have to call the courts. What the fuck? You're telling me to call the courts, and you guys stand on caring about children and being involved. It's ridiculous. So you have people who are literally incarcerated right now because of the fact that they were poor or just signed the contract didn't know they were signing on to.
Yeah.
This is so unfortunate, because then it limits you to the type of jobs you could get. Now, I'm not saying that people shouldn't take care of the responsibility, but what I am saying, when the government says that they are going to help you, they should help you. They shouldn't just penalize you for being miseducated or growing up in a bad situation or just making a bad decision. I mean, if anything, help me make it right, because it does affect society when when you just close doors on people, because then they're left trying to figure it out on their own.
Yeah. Wow. Jeez, I'm blown away by the license thing. I do not what is their reasoning?
Even now, I've passed the test here in this state. Now I have to prove I had a license in my previous state, and the previous state told me that they only keep records for up to 5 years. Now you tell me, but they still have record that I owed them money.
Oh,
but they didn't have record that I have a driver's license.
Yep.
Oh my God. Who the hell can't keep records nowadays? You have endless hard drives. Wow. Just wow.
Yeah, and they were telling me that I was supposed to know that they were going to get rid of this information. I said, well, why would I know that without no paper or anything telling me that you were going to get rid of this?
So for a license, so you just have to start over, like go to driver's ed and stuff?
I've taken the test. I paid the majority of my fines off, but now they want me to do behind the wheel. But to me, that's like a slap in the face when you've been driving for years. And also I'm in the state where like you have to have insurance to do the driving test.
God.
So how do I do that?
Oh, so you have to get a car insured that you don't have in order to drive?
You guys telling me I had to go and buy a car in order?
Nice.
You know, this is like ridiculous.
Nice. That keeps the economy circulating. There you go. That's good.
God.
Good policy. Yeah.
So when you show up for the driver's test, they're going to ask you for your automobile insurance?
Yes. They want to know proof of insurance for the vehicle that I am driving, because in order for the instructor to get in the car, it has to be insured.
So in other words,
they're not
you
gonna
have
just get in
to.
an uninsured vehicle.
So you have to be a child that's with your parents who have you under their insurance. Really, that's what it's
If
designed
your
for.
parents own a car,
Yeah, if your parents own a
Yeah.
car.
because cars are expensive
Oh
nowadays
wait,
too.
and then if you don't get a license, now you have now the right wants you to show your license to get to vote.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. Wow.
Yeah,
That is really frustrating.
Yeah.
it's ridiculous because even like the attorney that I had, I'm like, oh, this person's listening to me. This lady charged me down to every text message.
Oh my god.
I'm like,
Wow.
I thought she was a good lawyer until I got the last bill. I'm like, oh, I don't think I like you so much.
I thought about you on Wednesday at 2, so I jotted. So I charged you for
Yeah.
15 minutes.
It was ridiculous. I literally had to fly back east. I'm all the way on the West Coast. I had to fly coast to coast to go to court, and then literally had to still pay money for another 2 years.
Oh, good god.
And the majority of it is interest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not.
But
and who gets
to
the
me,
interest? The
most
government?
insane part is you guys say that you care about children.
Guess we all just show it
Yeah.
in different ways.
It'd be different if they took the interest and gave it to the child. That would at least make a little more sense.
No, they're gonna give that child an interest rate when they grow up and need a student loan.
Yeah.
That's when they're gonna see some interest.
Wow. What's their reasoning for the interest? Are they giving the money for you until you can pay for it, or is it
Well, if they don't really justify it, they just say,
just what are you gonna do about it?
these are this is the interest for the money that we're giving, and mind you, they'll give additional money from the money that they had already given, so they continue to give money, and then they're like, oh, you owe this. I'm like, but at the time, like now, my credit is really good, but before my credit wasn't even that good, and you're still out loaning out money, knowing that I don't have good credit.
Oh,
So
God, jeez.
you know that I'm not able to pay it,
That's ridiculous.
but you're continue to loan out money. To me, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's if you don't, it's expensive to not have money.
Yeah.
It's really expensive to
Yes.
not have money.
Studies
there
have
is to
shown
it.
that. Yeah, that is for sure.
Oh God,
Wow.
that's insane.
And
I
it's
guess-
crazy. And that's not something that just affects like people of color. That affects
Oh yeah,
poor people who have children who think that the state is going to help them. That's
Mhm.
like, it's
Mhm.
unfortunate.
yeah. If you don't have money and you don't have a credit card, and the credit card's paid, it has to be paid off. Your credit isn't good. And if your credit's not good and you want to go buy something, your interest rate for whatever you're going to buy is going to be higher because you have less money.
Mhm.
Sounds
Yeah.
like a good system to me.
Yeah.
But
And
if you
then-
can afford it, we are going to give you a deal on your interest rate.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yep.
then knowing that, it makes it understandable how people are willing to sell drugs and to traffic other items.
Oh yeah.
It's not like they just sign up for
Yep.
it from the get-go.
yeah.
No, they were like, my back is against the wall. You
Yeah.
have some people who like working and like to receive their paycheck and like to know that they can actually buy for their child what they feel that they need. Instead of
Mhm.
you saying, here, send this money to the other parent and let them figure out what the child needs. And
Hmm.
and anything that I might buy extra, that's considered a gift. So if I see them that my child needs shoes, that's a gift. If I see that my child needs socks or pants because the other parent was unable because maybe her bills were too high or just was going through something or just was misusing the funds, it's a gift.
That doesn't count as part of the payment.
No, it's a gift.
Oh,
Well,
stay married,
guess-
folks.
yeah. And if all else fails, just join the military.
Military. Yeah, that's right. That's
They'll
right.
pay you an allowance, and it increases a bit if you
Yeah.
have more kids. So there
Whatever
you
you do, don't start making a little more money. because if you make a little more money, you aren't going to get benefits anymore for being poor, but you won't be making enough money to survive. So if you're going to make more
Yep.
money, make a lot more money somehow.
Yeah, and if the
That's
mother
it.
knows and she has an open case that you're making more money and you open your mouth, she can go back to the court
Yeah.
and tell them that you're making more money and she needs more money because she can't pay her bills.
Yep.
Yep.
Just that simple.
Well, I feel like if any,
Capitalism.
yeah, I feel like if anybody is watching this and they, you know, if you're watching this at some time in the future and you were thinking about having kids, you may not be so cheery on the subject right now, but
Bring it
I will
back.
have,
Bring it back,
yeah,
Alex.
I will have you all know that at least these two gentlemen with me would generally recommend the situation
Oh, yeah.
to most people. So let me try to, I guess, pivot us into something that'll give someone some nice touchy feelies before, you know, before we go too deep down the rabbit hole.
Of course.
Yeah. So something that
Keep in
I'm
mind that was
wondering
one
about.
statistic that he told us.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I would just I would say that to me, I would do it again in a heartbeat because the lessons and the stories that I have learned from my my children, the older ones particularly, is these are lessons that I could not have learned from another adult. I couldn't have understood why someone would want to try to do better or what interests them in life. Because you know, I'm 41. I don't see much hope, or that's why I think
I know.
it's good to have. No, I mean it's honestly it's good to have children because when you have different ages, you have different perspectives. If you're just old, you're like, I'm just going to work and I'm coming home. But when you're older and you have a child, you're like, well, I want to show him this place or that place, or maybe we could travel here or travel there because I'll be able to travel and I'll be able to do things that I couldn't do before. So you do get a different perspective. And also with this child, I'm doing things differently because I'm reading more. I've bettered myself. So not only do I have the relationship with my other children that's it's getting increasingly stronger and so strong. Like I'm telling them things like my son, when I went back east the last time, he told me that I should run for president because he told me that no one is telling him, and he said, why isn't no one telling him the things that I'm telling him? And
it's the reason why you won't be president too.
But then I realized he wasn't joking.
No,
he was actually being serious because he, like, I remember when my son was younger, he was like so playful, but once he hit his teenage years, he got more serious, just like I did. And I didn't want my son to get serious. I mean, I want you to understand the world, but I also want you to be able to be happy at times. So now I'm glad that he's able to still find things to laugh about or things that interest him. So growing up without a father, I feel like I did good in the way that even though I'm on a whole nother coast, my kids will call me, they will text me, and they will let me know when they're doing good. They will let me know when they're doing bad. And they will say things, Dad, I miss you. I love you. You know, I couldn't do that with my own father, but the fact that my children do that with me, it triggers something that I wouldn't have known that it would have triggered since I didn't have that there before. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Something, yeah, kind of gave me another question, but I feel like I should actually get Jayson's response on this one before I go off into a different tangent.
No, I think he said it really well, personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a little depressing. Well, I guess here it is with Luke. Okay, when I was before I had children, I 1000% knew I did not want children. 1001, 10,000. I did not want
Hmm.
children. I didn't have a problem with them. I just didn't ever want someone to depend on me because I had a lot of stuff I wanted to do. I wanted to
Hmm.
either sing, or I wanted to make films, or I wanted to be an actor, or I wanted to do something. And I knew that a little child was going to be a problem. But my wife at the time was really into having a child. And eventually I was like, you know what? Maybe I should give up on that stuff and do the family thing. And I remember saying to her, I do not want a child. I will say this though, I am positive once I have a child, I have faith in the fact that that biological thing will happen, and I will love the child. I don't love the child on this side of him at all. I do not want
Hmm.
the little dependent. I have no
Yeah.
interest in it. Week after Luke was born, I felt that I'll kill you if you go near my child feeling. That
Hmm.
really visceral, like, protection, love, like, you start fantasizing about terrible things, and because you want to be prepared for every single moment.
Yeah.
um and it's a horrible feeling. And then when he started to develop and do different things, of course, again, he's autistic, so it's very delayed, but to this day he does things that make me just, call up my best friend and be like, oh my god, so today. And it's exciting. Is it what I wanted to do? No. Do I
Hmm.
find joys in it? Yes, I definitely do. And would I change it? No, because I know Luke now, which is exactly what I said would happen. I will absolutely love my child once it's
Hmm.
born. On the other side, where I didn't have one, I had no interest whatsoever. But yeah, it makes me
Yeah.
feel pretty damn good just just tucking him in. I love tucking Luke in. I absolutely love tucking him in. I don't know why. It
Hmm.
is just so neat to go in there and he's sleeping. I love putting the blanket on him, and he for some reason smiles when he's sleeping. He'll just smile. I'll be like, and I'll come out all
Yeah.
happy. It's wonderful. He's just so cute.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can totally relate to that because I mean, I think I one of the key things I guess that I would always talk about to people before I had kids or when I had a social life, I was always about the not having kids. It wasn't going to be something, it wasn't for me, similar to what you said, Jason, but you said you didn't have a problem with them. And maybe I was more leaning towards the, no, I actually don't like you, little kid, kind of, that's how I was. Um, but of course, it would always be different for little kids that were in my family. I would understand that I have some different feeling towards them than the mass of other little kids that I didn't want to be near me. So that was one thing. But yeah, even when we got married, I think we were sort of aligned on the we're not going to have kids plan when we got married. But I think that I kind of always knew, my wife has a very maternal air about her, if you want to call it that. So I think that it became more and more obvious as we became more serious that, oh, this will be, a really important thing for her. And I felt very similar to what Jason said, kind of like, well, that's not really my jam, but I do think that I'm a human and have observed enough in the rest of humanity that there's a difference between the opinion I have on this side of it and the opinion that I'll have on the other side of it. Uh, and that was kind of the way that, I resolved to be about it. But yeah, it's just interesting that you described it that way because I don't know how rare or common it is for someone to feel that way, either about becoming a father or mother, whatever type of thing. But yeah, that's how it was. But like you said, you can't imagine undoing it.
Mm.
That's not the way that it works. Like you'll have things that you miss about the time before.
Yes.
For sure there will be those things, but it's a very big gap between missing those things and wanting to basically undo the whole thing,
Yeah.
no matter how much strife that it comes with. So it's a hard thing to describe to people before that happens to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah, definitely. I miss playing D&D for 9 hours with my friends and eating pizza and not having a care in the world and going to work at 2 p.m. the next day and doing the same thing the next night, and then I have band practice the next day, and and I'm writing a script and I'm trying to get people together to make a film, and
Yeah.
just and girlfriends, like it
Mhm.
was just peaceful.
Yeah, it
Now
was
it's
peaceful.
stressful and can be super joyful at times, for sure.
Mhm.
But like,
Yeah.
you have to like change your life. You have to just decide those things can't happen anymore, especially if you're a single parent, because it's you don't have anybody to give you a break. There's no break. I haven't had a break
Yeah.
in 6 years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. You know, sometimes my wife and I will be jealous of if people are, they have a kid and they have like family nearby that's, can help with things and cover down on stuff. But uh yeah, like when you think about if one of us were out of the equation, just how much more extreme the imbalance would be and how difficult it would be to ever just not be vigilant, hyper vigilant in a
Mhm.
moment. That's a lot of, I don't know, burden, if you want to call it that, like, not to put a negative connotation on it, but it is a significant thing to deal with. So yeah, you can't imagine like how hard it is. Well, you can imagine how hard it is before you're in that situation, but I'm sure that there are just aspects to it that are just difficult to appreciate unless, that's happening to you. It's yeah, gotta be very exhausting.
Well, the biggest thing for me is I have said no to everyone I've ever known. Like, I have a lot of
Hmm.
people that are always like, "Hey, we should get together, or we should have a call sometime, or we should hey, you want to go to lunch?"
Yeah.
And I'm just like, "I'm free. Well, I have to probably sleep because more than likely Luke's going to get up in the middle of the night that the night before. So after I drop him off at school, I'm going to go home and take a nap, maybe 4 hours. Get up around 12. I have to pick him up at 2:30. So if you can meet me downstairs at the restaurant between 12:30 and 1, I should be able to squeeze it in, or we could just have a Zoom call after he goes to bed, which has been my social life, has been Zoom
Mhm.
and phone call with my
Yeah.
friend, watching movies with her.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you don't like. I've had so many people ask me to join their band. Hey, you want to? And I live right across the street from the bar I loved playing at. And
Oh,
every
yeah.
Friday and Saturday night, I hear a band playing in there. I'm just like, yeah, fuck off.
Yeah. Oh,
And I can't do that anymore.
yeah.
It's all gone, really. That's why I'm like, so I've taken to the internet to be my thing. Like, I have a page for singing, I have a page for video game playing, I have the podcast, like,
Mm-hmm.
because I can chip away at all these bigger dreams I had in smaller ways.
Yeah.
And
And
that's what I have to do.
Jayson, I want to
Sure.
acknowledge you, and I want to give you a pat on the back, a virtual pat on the back, because 17% of single parent households are fathers, and you deserve to be acknowledged,
Oh, thank
because
you.
I know you don't get that often.
Mhm.
Thank you. A lot of people, I'm actually a little shocked about how much people acknowledge it. I'm probably a little different because me and my wife we were very different. She was more of the masculine stereotypes, and I'm
Mhm.
more of the feminine stereotypes,
Hmm.
which is interesting. I didn't really realize it till we had to get a divorce. I was like, "You're kind of like a guy." I mean, she's not. She's super feminine, but there's a lot of that stereotypical, like, dude thing going
Okay.
on.
Traits that people typically assign to
Yeah,
guys.
like I'm
The
single
strengths
parent,
plays.
and she moved away with her new boyfriend. Like that's Vermont didn't know what to do with that when we're talking about divorce and stuff. They're like, so wait,
They're
you
like, what?
don't want any custody to her, and she's like,
Yeah.
well, it's it's
That
very
is
different.
unique.
It
It
is.
is, yeah. It is very different. And it reminds me, I guess, that there are ways that people think all of this typically plays out, and it's not always that way. And there are, there are even people, fathers, mothers, whoever, who are not with their kids or away from them more than they would really want to be, but there's circumstances and situations that prevent them from being like a part of their life as much as they would want to.
Yeah.
So, there are people who are in that zone, and most of the drama focus is kind of on the perspective that like a mother is being left somewhere by a father, and the
Yeah.
father doesn't care, and
Yeah.
all of that. But there are these other situations and other configurations that happen to people, and all of that stuff has to be appreciated if you're really going to establish things or systems that stabilize anything.
And I also have to say thank you, Johnathan, for that. I left that out at the. I went on a tangent, but I do appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So then I don't know. Tell me about I don't know, something that's like more in a lighthearted kind of way. Like, what are the differences that you have observed if if you had the write the book on how mommies do things differently than daddies, or is there any truth to men take a different perspective towards the raising and all of that stuff than women? Is that,
And this is
would you
from a
say that's true?
generalization,
Of course.
like Mars and Venus thing. Not obviously not everyone.
Of course.
Yeah.
How are you different?
The married people are afraid to talk.
I'm like, what is this? Do you have a safe thing that you can say about the difference between you and your partner in raising a kid? I mean,
Go ahead,
Jayson
Johnathan.
kind of already started along those lines.
Yeah, I kind of went already.
Something that's safe to say, because it's not worth getting in trouble over a podcast episode.
Well, I noticed like with me with the newborn, it's kind of like it's different because you don't want to hear your baby crying all the time. But since I have previous kids, well, they'll be okay. You can cry a little bit, but also as the mother's first child, so for her it's a little different where I don't feel like he's crying for that much. For her, it seems like her mother radar goes off a little quicker, which I respect her response. I don't think I would be comfortable with her. I'll just let him cry. But maybe it catches me off guard. But like, well, I'm I'm experienced, but who really is that experienced when it comes to being a parent? Because every child is different. So, but I think it's something to get used to different parenting styles and just different ways that people may communicate with each other.
Yeah, that's very interesting to me. I feel like I can relate to it to some extent, but not because I have experience. Maybe more just I don't know, numb. But yeah, no, that's very interesting, and I can kind of imagine how that it plays out in those moments where you're kind of like, okay, so some crying has started, or some an issue has potentially started, who's gonna push the trigger on doing something about it. Are we gonna wait? Are we gonna not wait? Yeah, all that type of thing. So yeah, that's interesting. And Jayson, so I don't know for you. I mean, of course, obviously, right now you're solo dad status, but you had to share the responsibilities for some amount of time too. So wondering if you have anything.
Well, in the very beginning, well, like I said about the gender reversal with me and my wife, it was very much like that in throughout our marriage as well. I pretty much did everything with Luke. I even brought him to work with me because well, her thought was he's autistic, and this is her words. I can't handle him if he has a breakdown or something. Honestly, he never had a breakdown. He's one of the most wonderfully tempered children I have ever met in my life. He's just always happy. But if he does have a thing where he sits down in the ground, she can't do anything about it. She says anyway. I mean, he's big now, but she always said he was too big. But in the very beginning, I was petrified of everything to do with parenting. One of my biggest fears in the whole world was changing diapers, and it was like a real problem for me at first. Now I can do it in my sleep. but
fear.
Fear,
what were you
absolutely.
Scared of? Doing it wrong?
Poop.
Oh, just
I was legitimately
being
just
exposed to
afraid.
poop.
I don't like. Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably the way I was brought up. I was brought up Catholic, and everything is wrong when you're a Catholic.
That's right. It is.
And so, like, you shut that door if you're going to the bathroom, and oh my God, you pooped your pants, when you're a little kid. I was like, everything was. You were made to feel everything was horrible. Like it's wrong. So I didn't even know what it was until I thought about it more. But yeah, I was afraid of diapers more than anything. It gave me anxiety, like wiping a butt and like all that stuff freaked me out. So in the beginning, my wife was that person. I mean, I learned pretty damn quick, but she was that person, and she helped me figure all that stuff out, which I'm grateful for sure. But once I had the reins, it was all me. Like, you got it.
Yeah,
good,
man. yeah. Yes. Yeah. I got pretty lucky with being taught stuff too. Because my wife is a pediatric occupational therapist, so she just has studied things and knows things, and you can just pick up and learn things and all of that. I think that what I have discovered is there's definitely still an opinion and a perspective that I can bring to stuff, because she has a more academic understanding of all of the things, and I have a more caveman understanding of the things, and sometimes that's useful too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like really helpful to have somebody that knows stuff that the average person in that situation wouldn't. It makes a lot of things easier.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So then what are some of the things, I don't know, that you still are looking forward to? I mean, you all have kids that are basically becoming official grown-ups now, and there are things ahead of them at the start of their adult life, but then you also have younger kids who still have experiences of childhood and all of that stuff to experience. So what are like a couple of things that you're looking forward to in either standpoint, the older kids or the younger ones?
Oh, well, having an 18-year-old now, I should probably mention, I don't know if it really matters, but Mila is my stepchild from my wife, and she stayed with me as well, and she's wonderful. She's a really easy person. We were talking earlier about the teen thing, and she's emotional, but she doesn't do any of the teen things that people say are bad. Like, you know what I mean? She's like responsible. She's beautiful, smart. She's doing really great with her job. She did AP honors for school, all that stuff. Now with Luke, he's 6, autistic. With Luke, I am trying to get him to a point where he can communicate, so that when I die, he's not a 28-year-old person in a home. I mean, that's my goal with Luke, is to get him to have some autonomy. Right now, he talks with one of all these different
Yeah.
like
What do they call them? They call them
I don't remember, but like
my wife's gonna be disappointed.
he does like this snack, and then he'll go goldfish. Did you hear it? Goldfish.
Yeah.
Or he'll go that fruit, watermelon. And he's learned a lot of this, and this is how he talks to me. And before, I just had to like run down a list of stuff, like, "Hey, do you want this?" And he'd be like, or like, "Do you want this?" Now he just uses this, and I go, "Watermelon," and he's like, But so that's my journey, is getting him to a point where because I don't know who else is there after me, really. I mean, I don't want to burden me, my daughter. I don't want to say, "Hey, guess what you get when," you know what I mean? You get to have this, But I think it's coming along, and I think he's going to end up being one of those savants in Silicon Valley, and I'm just going to have to teach him good morals.
Okay, yeah. I mean, obviously,
but communication is the goal.
Yeah, exactly. And there are definitely milestones, that you're looking forward to, and it'll be like a huge victory. Yeah, I've heard that before. Just because we used to have a therapy practice, like a OT practice, and my wife would mention that, just when you're in that world where there's some kind of serious deficit or just delay that you're trying to overcome in order to make them be able to live independently. That is the mission. It's like, hey, I'm thinking about that I'm not going to be here eventually, and all I want is to feel confident that if I'm not here, you're going to be able to take care of yourself. You're going to be okay. I think a lot of people don't have to think about that if they don't have those serious issues with their kids, and then it gets lost that that's sort of like the driving thing in people's lives who are in that situation. But that's just interesting to hear that perspective again, because that's so true. That's for the rest of us who feel like, oh, okay, he's progressing normally or ahead of the curve or something like that, you start to get worried about these other things. But really, at the core, at the bottom of all of it is, I want you to be okay when I'm not around anymore. Like, I want to feel that that is a thing, whatever I have to do to make that the reality. So
yeah. One of the big milestones he had a few months ago, and this will seem like nothing to anyone that doesn't know this, but he hit eat, snack, goldfish. So I went, okay. And this is when he was first starting to understand how to use this for certain things. And I went over and I got the goldfish, and I opened up his snack thing, and I saw him go like that. And I was like, what the hell was that? He went like that. And then he went back to it and corrected himself and went, eat, snack, Cheerios. And so I went and got the Cheerios, and then he was happy. And that was like, to me, unfucking believable. Because I saw in real time him realize that he made a mistake and he corrected himself. And that is huge in the world of communication. Huge.
Wow. That's incredible.
And that gives me a
just
lot
that moment. And then you thought, okay.
He didn't get upset, he didn't get frustrated, just corrected himself.
Huh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's positive.
of
I can
course.
see that being a good thing.
Yeah. What about you, Jonathan? What are you looking forward to seeing or experiencing or doing or anything
Um,
like that?
well, with my with my older children, I'm looking forward to I'm starting to see like a transition slowly into like the type of com- communication, the things that are like important to them are just the way that they see the world through their own eyes, and it's
Mhm.
very they're very alert. I'm also interested to possibly being able to travel someplace with them uh, in the future, as well as with my newborn. I'm looking forward to just being there for him and just engaging with him, and just hopefully I could inspire him in ways that help him to be a better person.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you just want to like do the right thing for them, right? It feels good if I don't know, there's some way that you can know that you did something that made them want to do the right thing or made them want to do something for themselves. That type of thing. I'm definitely looking forward to just figuring out what he's about, like what does he actually care about. Right now we're in this, I don't know if it's a phase or a phase is a word that's usable or what it is, but he's obsessed with balloons and hot air balloons and stuff. It's probably some
Nice.
normal little kid type of thing,
Yeah.
but I mean, I haven't been around that many little kids, but as crazy as the kid acts around some balloons or looking at some hot air balloons and things, I'm like, well, that's pretty interesting if you're specifically interested in that, or you might, it might be something that you grow out of, or it might be something that you are legitimately interested in some aspect of that. It would be cool to know what he cares about, um, and just learn about him that way. So I'm looking forward to that. And then, yeah, I mean, we named him James after James Baldwin, and I don't know. I look forward to him learning just where his name came from and how we finally arrived at it 2 days after he was born, and
Can I know now why you named him
what it
after
might
James Baldwin?
mean. Well, I mean, I don't know. It could be obvious to all of us, but we struggled to come up with a name for him. Like we didn't know whether we were having a boy or girl all the way up until the end.
Hmm.
And we for some reason felt strongly it was going to be a girl, so we had a name pinned down if it was a girl,
Michelle
but we
Pfeiffer.
hadn't.
I just wanted.
No. but anyway, we knew what we would name a girl, we didn't know what we would name a boy. So then when we had him, it took us like 2 days to finally land on a
Mm,
name. And we were struggling with it because we were like, okay, how symbolic does it need to be? How much do we need to care about how society will react to it? How much does the name inspire us? I wanted something that the initial wasn't too late in the alphabet, all kind of
mm.
weird. I had a lot of weird criteria,
No, that makes sense.
and my wife had some criteria, but we just couldn't land on something that really felt like it was authentic and genuine, and we're really picking it because it felt right. And as we were just going through all of these different name ideas, like all of these note cards with names on them and stuff like that, uh, I just kind of started looking around trying to figure out, well, who inspires me, or who, like, can I get an idea of a name from someone that, makes me feel some kind of way. And I was reading off just some of these different names to my wife, different, I think maybe specifically like different African American leaders and stuff like that. And when I said James Baldwin, it's sort of like, I was like, oh yeah, I mean that sounds pretty good. uh and I love some of the things that he's had to say just about what it is to be a person that's inside of like this niche part of society. But anyway, when I said that, my wife thought, oh, that's perfect, that's it. Like, and I was like, do you want to take some time to think about it before we final call it? And she's like, no, that's it. I know. Like, she kind of felt it. So that was when we finally decided on it. But yeah, I want him to know that story, and I want him to know how perfect it felt in the moment, and then be able to explain to him, like, here's what I feel when I think about James Baldwin, and
Yes.
here's what I want for you. Not that I want you to be this person or like this other person. I want you to remind me of James Baldwin. I want
Right.
you to remind me of the power that I think about,
Huh.
the self-confidence, the willingness to be yourself inside of this world that rejects you. That's what I want to think about when I think of you.
Hmm.
So yeah, it'll be probably not that dramatic or cool at all when we finally get to the point of telling him that, but that's how I'm thinking about it now in my fantasy world.
Have you ever
Oh,
listened
wow.
to the James Baldwin pin drop speech?
Yes.
That's
Apparently I'm missing out on all this James Baldwin stuff because I've never.
Yeah.
What's going on? What do I look for when I'm talking about James?
It's not hard.
I mean, I know him
Google
as
it.
an
Just
actor,
James
but
Baldwin pin drop speeches.
Start, yeah.
okay.
beautiful
Well,
Start
speech.
with that.
I'll put that in my stuff here. I'm
I'm
just like
currently I'm
James
reading one of his
Baldwin.
books, James Baldwin Going to Meet the Man.
Okay.
I've
Yeah.
read a lot of his quotes, but I haven't. This is my first James Baldwin book I'm actually reading. So yeah,
There's
he
a
knows how to write.
there's a children's book.
Oh my god, I'm an
Oh
idiot.
wow, I have to
Hmm.
get that.
I'm an absolute
I'm trying
moron.
to remember exactly what it's called. I should remember that.
Oh my god.
But I forget. But yeah, like Jayson, you check it. I think if you go watch, or read or watch some James Baldwin stuff, then you
Oh my
won't be
god, no.
surprised.
No, I'm fine now. Are you
Okay.
ready? You ready for this?
What?
I just
You thought we were talking about somebody else?
I thought James Baldwin was one of the Baldwin brothers. I just put him as Stephen
You
Baldwin.
thought it
That's what.
was Alec Baldwin's brother?
Yeah, I did. That's why I've been acting this
Jayson.
way the whole time. And so I just put in James Baldwin, and I'm like, oh, I know who he is. So I'm thinking
See,
like, to me, you were
America, this
saying
is why we will never overcome.
to me, it was like you were
Just have
saying
you all know
Stephen
that.
Baldwin. Like,
We're working
so
on
I'm
it.
like, what? And you guys are like talking about all this stuff about him, and it's like, what am I missing? Has James Baldwin done something like incredible? Isn't he the guy in isn't he
30
in
Rock?
30 Rock? Yeah.
Good grief.
Sorry, man, I screwed up that.
Okay.
All
Anyway,
right.
now you know,
Yes.
and you have some idea about why it maybe matters.
Yes, I do.
But yeah, anyway.
Oh my
That was
god.
that was just, we were all sharing things that we're looking forward to, sharing or doing or whatever it is. Because yes, there is a lot of I mean, there is a lot of joy to this, just in crevices and things that's impossible to explain to other people, that you just kind of have to experience for yourself. But it comes with the good, it comes with the bad, and
Yeah.
sometimes you have to do a Father's Day bash so that you can
Yes.
complain for about 100 minutes, and then
Uh.
say some positive stuff in the last 20 for everybody's podcasting pleasure.
Yeah.
What's all
Well,
about?
Jonathan, do you want to say how you guys came up with the name, or is it something you don't want to say the name, or some people are
Well, the
private?
name is Jaren.
Mhm.
I forget the exact meaning. I should know this, but it has something to do with like music. It's a Jewish name. It's not. It's like in Jewish movies and stuff. It's not official Jewish name, but some athletes have the name. It's not really popular, but you might have heard it a couple times before.
Is it Jarin?
Jaron.
Oh, my Vermont and me doing that. To sing?
To sing what? Oh, is that that's the translation?
It's the
Mhm.
meaning. It says a cry of rejoicing.
Yeah.
Hmm. That's cool.
Yeah.
And what about Luke? Where did Luke come from?
Awesome. All right, help me with this word. Supplanter. Supplanter? What?
What?
Well, James means supplanter, whatever that is. I don't know.
uh,
I don't know.
so I mean, I guess I know what it means to supplant.
So then he's a
That's
supplanter.
like replace. Okay, that's weird.
So Luke, um, I wanted to name him Jean-Luc after Jean-Luc Picard.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was all into
And
that.
you were told to do something less weird?
Actually, we were all on board.
Okay.
And then we started to realize that Jean-Luc was a little bit pretentious for someone that wasn't, Persian and like or royalty, or it just seemed a little bit like. And we started thinking about the spelling of the name, like Gean, Jean-Luc. People would be like Jean-Luc,
Okay.
And so we were
yeah.
like, no,
This isn't practical.
yeah. And then my wife was like, what about just Luke? And I'm a Star Wars fan, okay? She
Okay.
was not a Star Wars fan.
Mhm.
Doesn't even
But
give a
you
crap
backed her
about
into it. Mhm.
No, I am one of those. You know me, so you know this is true. I started to feel bad because I knew what was going to happen if his name was Luke. I was going to get a lot of, hey, did you ever say, Luke, I'm your father? So I felt like I had to at least tell her that this was going to happen. And she said, that's not going to happen. Luke is a name from the Bible. I'm like, it ain't anymore. It's a name from Star Wars.
Yes. Yes, I totally forgot it was in the Bible. Like,
yeah,
what?
exactly. So yeah, that it ended up being Luke, but I did tell her and I did warn her, and to this day when it happens, I always am like, Luke, I'm your father. Yep.
Yep.
And tons of Star Wars stuff gets said, but yeah, but I had to be honest.
Huh.
But yeah,
that's great. Jean-Luc.
Yeah, I like Jean-Luc.
Man.
It is pretentious
Okay.
though.
Yeah. And original is better than next generation. So I mean, you were going on some tier 2 options anyway. But you did the best that you could, given tier 2 options.
I guess. Well, James T. Kirk, you got there. You go.
Yeah. Jim. Yeah. Well done. Just kind of. Yeah, man.
Apparently,
we did a good
Luke
job
means
naming
light.
him.
Means light giving.
Okay. Yeah, that fits.
Lightsaber.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even think about it that way, but
yeah, I'm a nut.
Yes. If you want to stay in the nerd territory, then you're right
I
there.
am very comfortable in nerd territory.
Yeah, why not stay there? Exactly. Okay, well,
we're past the 10 o'clock mark. If you guys,
yeah,
so you guys
that's
know.
all the questions that I had. I
had a million more, but we should definitely leave them wanting more.
Yeah, we should, because we're parents. So that means that we have to go do other things.
Yeah.
Even if it is just like sit somewhere and be half vigilant while you coast to the end of your Sunday.
Yeah.
That's still something.
Do you have any final words, Johnathan?
No, I just want to thank you all for taking time out of your busy days to come and have this conversation. I know at times it was a little a bit much, but being a parent isn't easy, and I appreciate that we were able to move along and move through it.
Yeah, we're gonna do this more, Johnathan. You're coming on more for a lot more. Same with you, Alex. What definitely. The hell, behind the scenes BS? You're great. You guys are awesome.
See, I can't trust you. I can't trust I can't trust my wife. I can't trust
Trust
people
me.
trying to say I should do these things.
I just wouldn't say anything if I didn't mean it. I would just move on with my day. I wouldn't bring it up all the
I
time.
guess I should believe you. Yeah, you and my wife, yeah, you are like, yeah, just people who say actually what you think and stuff like that. But we'll see. I'll still resist you for as long as
Yeah,
I can.
and I mean that with Johnathan too. I think this has been a great conversation. And
Yeah,
I
we
think
could come on here and talk about some other stuff.
hell
Yeah,
I'm
for
I'm
sure.
open to talking about like different things,
nice.
travel or whatever.
We'll do a travel blog.
Yeah.
Alex, any final thoughts from Dadland?
Yeah. I was just informed by my wife that when I didn't know the name of the board thing before, it's an AAC device.
Mm.
And she thought I was gonna say PEX board, which I would have if I had thought of that. So she's right about that. But anyway, I guess my final thoughts on this and the Father's Day bash and stuff. Not much of any. Just I think becoming a parent has helped me understand a perspective better that I didn't have before I was. But I don't think that everybody should do it. There's like some prerogative that everybody needs to become a parent in order to contribute to society or anything like that. We all do different stuff, but at the end of the day, it's worth, I don't know, sitting around and thinking about what people are going through, or what it is that we're all kind of collaborating towards in society and life in general. So even though I don't really like holidays at all for any reason, it's cool for us to have a reason to come do these forums and stuff like that. So
Oh yeah.
happy that we did it. Happy that some people came to look at it, at least for a little while. And if you're still around, please drop the thumbs up thing or whatever it is that you're supposed to do on the platform. And yeah, see you around.
Yeah. I guess if I were going to say some last things, I would say the most important thing that I feel to do with a child is make them feel safe and loved. Nothing else is more important than that, I think, anyway. I know that because I did not feel safe when I was a kid. I felt a lot of anxiety and not safe. Everything was, the shoe was, the boot was going to drop at any second, all the time.
Oh, actually, that's what my shirt. Did you?
Yeah, I can't see the image, but I read that 1,000 times.
Oh man, yeah, this shirt. It says if your child doesn't look like this when you come home, you have failed as a parent.
That's how I felt inside, for sure.
That is childhood.
Yep, your father's gonna come home and he's gonna be pissed.
Oh man, yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah. Not to get back on that tangent, and make everybody depressed over again, but I'm glad that the shirt got.
Yeah,
the shirt became relevant at the last second.
Absolutely. All right, so this was really fun. We're definitely gonna do more holiday or events for sure. Anyone that's watching, please subscribe and like, and feel free to share this. And also go to our social media. We're trying to, mostly YouTube. Forget about all the other stuff if you want. But yeah, YouTube most of all. Subscribe and share and comment. Please comment. We're going to re-air this on Sunday, which is really Father's Day. So I have to edit it into a more polished version.
Yep.
And I have a week. And Luke will be very he will definitely be very cooperative, I'm sure, in letting me have the time to do that inside, when I'm not playing video games. But thank you very much, everybody, for watching, and we will talk to you later.